$199 and 135 hours of battery life. That's the sweet spot where headphones either over-deliver, overpriced, or they look the same. So Nothing looked at it and said, nah, and released this, the Nothing Headphone A. It's not their flagship, but the question is, does it even matter since it's $100 cheaper? Now, I've been using this for 2 weeks and there's a lot of things that you need to know about it, so watch first and buy smart. First, let's talk about how these headphones look, because that is exactly what Nothing wants you to look first. It comes in 4 colors, white, black, pink and yellow, but it's not the entire headphone, it's only at the outer cup area and a tiny little accent dot. Now, I got the white because of how minimal it looks, and I like white if you did not know. Now, someone actually commented about the yellow variant looking like a sunny side up egg, and now I can never unsee it. Now, there's the transparent design around it and you can actually see what's inside, and that has always been Nothing's DNA for their phones, showing you the insides as a design, not truly hiding it. But I know what you're thinking. It looks cheap and is plasticky, right? Well, I thought the same thing. But the moment you pick it up, the sliding arms feels very reinforced with no creaking. The hinges are also metal and the build has this premium quality feel that you wouldn't expect at this price. Comfort-wise, it weighs at 310 grams, not the lightest, but it's very comfortable to wear. Now, this was very important to me because I get migraines very easily, and wearing this on a 6-hour flight was absolutely fine. I actually fell asleep with this on. But speaking of flights, the caveat is that this particular headphones does not fold flat. Like, you cannot bend it to fold flat, so keep that in mind when you're packing this on. Then the memory foam ear cups and the headband's paddings are genuinely very well thought out, even though if you have ear piercings. Now, I do not have any earrings on right now, but if you do, which I usually do, but I just forgot, it is actually really great for that. It is also IP58 rated, so whether or not it's light rain, sweat at the gym, you're totally covered. And Nothing also put these headphones through 50 hardware reliability tests, plugging in and unplugging the charger about 5,000 times and pressing each button 10,000 times. Now, you probably won't be hitting those numbers anytime soon, but based on how this particular buttons look like and feel, I can vouch for that. Now, speaking of buttons, there are 3 physical buttons on these headphones, and all of them do something different. First up, the roller. Now, honestly, this is one of my favorite things of the Headphone A and the flagship Headphone 1, where you roll right to raise the volume, left to lower it, and press the button to play or pause, and long press to switch the ANC mode, which has this unique that still gets me every time when you switch it on and off. But even adjusting the volume gives you real-time feedback to your ears. It's like the headphone is confirming your input, which is nice and premium. So because of that, the experience feels so much more premium. Then there is the pedal, where if you push right, it goes to the next track, or left, it goes to the previous track. And you can hold to fast forward or rewind as well, where it worked on Apple Music, YouTube Music, and even on a YouTube video as well. Now, I do not have Spotify because I absolutely hate their audio quality, but apparently it will work on Spotify too if you use that. Then there is this button, where you can customize this in the Nothing X app with a single press and a press and hold command. Now, out of the box, when I use this with the Nothing Phone 4a Pro, it activates channel hop, which lets you swap between the media apps and what you have opened. So for example, if you already have YouTube on and you have Apple Music open, it switches between them accordingly. Now, this came in very handy at the gym, because when I was on a treadmill, I'll be usually watching a YouTube video, and the moment I was done, when I switched to the weights, one press and I'm straight into the music, no touching my phone. But you can also remap the button to your AI assistant, Essential News, adjust noise control, trigger the camera shutter, mute your mic, or even lock in a specific EQ preset. Then there's also an option for no action, which I'm not sure why in the world you would choose that, but the option is there. But the main point though, that all of these 3 controls have proper tactile feedback, not mushy but very mechanical and precise, and there's no annoying touch sensitivity issues with this, since everything is a mechanical push of a button. And the first time I turned this on, it immediately prompted to pair, and one tap and done, and even recognized them as my Headphone A by my name, so that was also a very nice touch. Now, since this headphone has Google Fast Pair, something very interesting happened happened because while I was listening to music on my Nothing Phone 4a Pro, I picked up my Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra and I immediately got it prompted to pair without me doing anything manually. But if you're using an iPhone or a Mac, you'll need to press and hold this particular Bluetooth button, which is hidden. Took me a while for me to find this, but yes, that is located right inside of the ear cup, just outside of the earpads, and then you can pair them accordingly. Now, I did test out the dual connection since these headphones does support that. Now, switching between the S26 Ultra to the Nothing Phone 4a Pro was very quick, and switching between the Nothing Phone 4a Pro to the iPhone 17 Pro Max was a little delay, but when it comes to switching between the Nothing Phone 4a Pro to my Mac was surprisingly seamless, about a 1 second delay as well. But switching back from the Mac to the phone, that took about a whole 5 seconds, which I felt was quite slow. So hopefully there's a software update that can fix that. And while we are on the topic of the dual connection, I do wish that Nothing has included a manual switch option as part of the button commands for this particular button, because for situations where I don't want to have a delay, you want to be able to trigger that by touching this button, right? Now, the idea of a seamless automatic switching is great in theory, but a manual option would still make it very much better. Then one more thing worth flagging is that there's no auto play and pause when you remove the headphones from your head, so you need to make sure to put it pause when you remove it from your head, as opposed to the premium headphones. But then again, for this kind of price point, I did not mind that, but adding that feature would be a huge cherry on top. Now for the part that why you're actually here, which is the sound quality. How does it sound? Well, out of the box, the EQ is set to more bass because Nothing clearly wanted the default experience to feel punchy and satisfying for casual listeners right away, so I put it through its paces. I had a bunch of different type of music genre that I listened to. First up is Bruno Mars' latest, which is Risk It All, and Cha Cha Cha. The instrument separation was genuinely impressive, and his vocals was very warm, inviting, and cutting through the mix like butter. And then I switched over to Billie Eilish, Chihiro, and Blue. The low end, especially the sub bass, was the best I've ever heard from any headphones at this particular price point, full stop. And then the real test. As a metal fan, I tested out Falling in Reverse Ronald. And if you know this track, you know what's coming. The double pedals, right? And on these headphones, you don't just hear them, you actually feel them. And at the 43rd second mark, there's that gun loading sound right before the sub bass drops. And that is something that really was mind-blowing on the headphones within this particular price range, because you don't just hear it, you actually feel the particular low sub bass over there. So yes, it was totally audible and clean even for a metal genre music. And here's what really genuinely surprised me, because most headphones are usually tuned to one genre, which if it's great for metal, is average for pop, great for pop but is weak for metal. Well, this particular headphones does not make you choose, because technically it's running a 40mm titanium coated diaphragm which covers 20 Hz all the way to 40,000 Hz. So because of that, it has a very wide dynamic range. Then from a codec perspective, it supports LDAC for high-res wireless audio up to 24-bit, 96 kHz, high-res audio certified. I also set the bass enhancement to level 2, and what's interesting is that this is actually AI powered, so it locks into the low frequencies and boosts them in real time without distorting, which is great for EDM, hip-hop, or anything with heavy beat. Then there's also the static spatial audio, cinema mode, and even the concert mode, which are fun features to play around with, which I'm usually not a fan of this spatial audio, so in case you do, this is great for you. But the beauty is the Nothing ecosystem, because the Nothing X app gives you an 8-band equalizer to completely customize your sound profile, which is perfect for audio files. There's even an EQ library under the Explore tab where you can download profiles made by audiophiles, the Nothing community, and collaborating with artists as well. Now you can even create your own EQ and share it as a QR code. So whether or not you're a casual listener or an audiophile who wants to know exactly what they want, this app genuinely delivers. And here's a sound test for you to hear the audio quality yourself using our binaural microphones with the EQ set to more bass and the bass enhancement set to level 2. So put on your best headphones for you to be the judge. Now there are 3 levels of the ANC with up to 40 dB of noise reduction. Now I tested this on a flight, in a cafe and even on a train, and for the price, it works. You can focus, you can zone out, and no complaints at all. Look, I'm a very simple man. As long as ANC to get to a point where I'm deep in my music, scripting my videos, and I cannot hear my mechanical keyboard clucking away, that is a huge win. But if you're coming from an AirPods Max, a Sony or a Bose flagship, you will notice a difference because it's not on that ANC level. However, if you never used an ANC before or you're upgrading from a basic pair of Bluetooth headphones, this will feel like a superpower. Then the transparency mode is also decent too, picks up surrounding sounds well enough. Not flagship level, but it does the job. Now as for call quality, there are 4 microphones in total, 3 of them specifically tuned for calls through Nothing's environment noise cancellation system. And Nothing has trained their clear voice technology on over 28 million real-world scenarios. In practice, calls are totally crisp. The person on the other hand could also hear you clearly, even in a noisy environment. Was I expecting something within this particular price? Probably not, because call quality on a budget and mid-range headphones are usually an afterthought. Brands just slap on a mic and call it a day, but Nothing has actually put in some real work over here. And here's the sound test for you to hear how the audio quality is when it comes to making phone calls.
Hello, this is the Nothing Headphone A microphone test. Test 1 2, test 1 2, test 1 2. Right now I'm actually close to the road, so you can hear the surrounding. Have some motorcycles and cars passing by. Test 1 2, test 1 2, test 1 2.
But when it comes to battery, here's where Nothing went totally wild. With 135 hours of playback with ANC off and 75 hours with ANC on. That's over 5 days of non-stop music. Yeah, let that sink in. Now this is because of the 2-core batteries running on a dual-core chipset, keeping everything efficient without any compromise. And if you're in a rush, no worries, because 5 minutes of charging gives you 8 hours of playback, and it gets from 0 to full in just 2 hours. Then you can also charge these headphones directly on your phone or your laptop via the USB-C. No adapter needed and no hunting for a wall plug. Just plug into whatever you have nearby. And speaking of which, inside of the box there is the 3.5mm audio cable and a USB-C to USB-C cable. But all of those numbers Nothing mentioned earlier makes sense only if it really performs as well in a real world use, right? Well, the good news is that it actually lasted a bit longer than what they said. So yeah, if battery is high on your priority list, this is genuinely one of the strongest reasons to get these headphones. So with that, should you buy the Nothing Headphone A? Well, if you want headphones that look very unique like this, sounds great, have useful EQ, and a battery life that makes everybody look embarrassing, then yes, you should. But remember, you're giving up the best-in-class ANC and transparency mode that Apple, Sony and Bose have. And as mentioned earlier, there's no auto play and pause when you take the headphones off, and these headphones does not fold flat, and there's no hard case in the box except for this particular drawstring bag. So you need to ask yourself, do you need all of those things mentioned? And if you want to know how these headphones compare to the Headphone 1, the flagship, check that video out over here.